And he was very clear when he took over the party. And obviously when he took over the party from Liz Truss, it was in a bad place. And he went to the 1922 committee to speak to all those backbenchers and said, look, unite or die. And they chose to die.
Yeah. If Tories are going to make a comeback, then, as you say, they do need to come up with a plan of what are we going to do. They do need to stop the infighting because we know the public don't like that. And we know the last few years that have been dominated by Tory rows and the five families and the different alphabet groups, ERG, and all the long list of groups that now we won't have to worry about. Yeah. But I just don't understand what they're going to do.
No.
You know, you look at Jeremy Corbyn's defeat in 2019, and quite quickly Labour thought, we need to go back to the centre ground. That's where parties win elections. And you look at Labour getting that big majority, despite not getting a record vote share. That's because they were in the centre ground. They weren't just piling up votes in seats that they already held. But I just don't quite see, where do the Tory party go from here when you're fighting reform on one side and you are fighting Labour on the other side? And I just think that the party is going to be very splintered in their diagnosis of what do they do now. And I think the difficult thing for whoever comes next as leader is, because they are such a reduced number of MPs now, the threshold of people you need to sign letters to challenge a leader is going to go down.
It's going to be about 20.
So
I mean, we'll have constant challenges if that is the case.
And I just think that if you do get a new leader, they don't manage to turn things around in the polls very quickly, then I think you are maybe going to have a perma-crisis within the Tory party.
I think that the Tory party is always, there's a reason it's the most successful in the world electorally, and has been, you know, it has always had this capacity to reinvent itself when it needs to. And so ultimately, you know, Conservative MPs know that you have to be in power to do things. And whereas Labour traditionally has kind of gone down a rabbit hole of ideological purity, the Conservative Party always sees that, fine, you have to make compromises to get what you need to get done. And that's why they tend to win more often. Now, we've seen a reverse of that at the moment. We've seen Keir Starmer understand that you need to compromise and be pragmatic to get into power, to do what you need to do. And the Tory party be set by infighting and demands that we're not being conservative enough, and then those groups, those MPs in the centre saying, actually, no, you always win from the centre, and this big divide happening. I think Rishi Sunak, I think clearly there is going to be an awful lot of blame heaped on him, and I've always said that his decision to go early was one that I thought was, well, let's just say it, bonkers. It just was. It made no sense to me on any level. But it doesn't matter. I mean, even if he'd gone in November,
they might be in a similar place.
They were still going to have a big defeat. That was clear. So he might be massively blamed for going early and losing them a few more seats, but I'm not sure ultimately it is all Rishi Sunak's fault. And he was very clear when he took over the party. And obviously when he took over the party from Liz Truss, it was in a bad place. And he went to the 1922 committee to speak to all those backbenchers and said, look, unite or die. And they chose to die. And they have to then look at this and realise, if you do go into all these groups and then hold your own little press conferences, much as, I as a journalist love that. I want to be there for all those events. It's exciting and there's a lot going on. That does not help your party. You need some discipline, and whoever takes over has to be absolutely ruthless in dealing with anybody who thinks they are bigger than the party. They are not. And you see these figures who know how to create a splash and create a headline, but that is not what wins elections. When you've got different groups, 5 families, or even the One Nation group started putting out their own press releases. They should be a cohesive group, and that's what Keir Starmer's managed to do with Labour. Whether he will manage to maintain that discipline now is a whole other story, but for the Tories, they've got to, rediscover a bit of discipline. Yeah,
and it felt like for a long time they've almost got addicted to this behaviour of splintering, with people wanting to come out and do these press conferences and get attention, wanting to have all this speculation about how many letters are in. And it almost felt at one point when the Tory MPs were trying to get rid of Lindsay Hoyle, that was almost an outlet for this. We constantly need to be getting rid of someone. If it's not the Prime Minister, let's get rid of the Common Speaker.